Let's talk about something that happens to some successful entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about how to scale your business without losing control. Now, let's say you're growing fantastically, you're getting more clients, you're getting more revenue, you have bigger staff, but everything seems to be falling apart, right? The numbers are looking really good 2 years, but you know it's bursting at the seams. And the issue is if you keep letting it go this way, you're not going to have a company. Somebody's going to take the company from your hands. So what do you do in this situation? Let's jump into this. My name is Achimba Atane. I'm a full-time entrepreneur, angel investor, and adjunct professor. This is Business and Life with Atane Advisors. Let's get started. Have you ever heard of the king's disease? So there was something in medieval times that happened when, because kings used to eat a lot of fatty, rich food, they would get kind of gangrene and these other things, and it'll cause death, gout. They didn't really know exactly what it was at this time, but it'll cause death because you can't just eat meat all the time. Most people can't just eat only meat, right? Or fatty foods, etc. You need a balanced diet. And that also happens with running a company. If you start running and your revenues are blowing up, your sales are blowing up, but you don't have the right operations and procedures in your company is going to fall apart and you may eventually lose a ton of clients. So let's talk about how you can scale quickly. Your company will fall apart, you lose a client, or you'll stress yourself out beyond the point that us entrepreneurs typically stress ourselves, right? So you go way past that red line and it's not a pretty sight. So let's talk about how you can manage that, how you can grow a great business without losing control. The first thing, and this typically limits capacity, but sometimes when you're growing and you're blowing up, you may not have this in place. Establishing standard operating procedures, right? So you want to document the things that you do repeatedly and create a process for doing that. Why do you do that? Because essentially when you're getting a new client, they're coming in because of a promise you've made to them, right? Or implicit promise, something they believe in you. And they're not going to stay and they're definitely not going to refer you if you don't keep that promise. So the way you keep that promise is by documenting what you need to do in order to fulfill that promise and training people on that process. So this makes it easier for somebody to follow it like a checklist, right? Rather than hoping that people know what to do in certain situations, you're really documenting it out. And the more documents and the more processes you have, the more efficiently your team can run. And I don't just mean by your current employees, your future employees. When you hire somebody, it may take a long time to write these SOPs down, but once you hire somebody, it's easier to train somebody and help somebody increase their skill level to what's necessary to properly service your clients, right? So create a clear and detailed SOP for every function. So hiring, customer service, sales, etc. This ensures consistency as your company expands. Automate. Automation is my friend right now. Once you get this down, try to figure out what things that you can do via technology, via systems, etc., so that you don't even have to think about it, right? So X happens, Y happens. So how many things can you automate in your business? This helps it also run when your leadership team is asleep, right? You want a business that's fully working and fully functioning. So if a key person is down, it continues to go. You want to invest in technology such as CRMs, customer relationship management systems. So you know where your customer is in the customer journey. Enough people can engage and check in and see, okay, is this person being serviced right? Especially if somebody gets sick or you forget to follow up, it's going to help you keep on track. Next, you want to hire and train the right people. As you expand, you're going to need new people at different levels. So once you get past a certain level, now you need middle management. So somebody who can, or lower management, somebody who can directly oversee the people who are doing the groundwork, right? And then after it expands and you have a ton of low management, you may need middle management. Then you may need upper level management, like your C-suite, etc., right? So these are layers that you may have to build and things that you didn't think about because now you have to manage more people. And you only have, as an entrepreneur or as a founder, as a CEO, etc., or as an executive, right? You only have so much bandwidth. So building in those leaders at every level necessary, that's something to think about. Now, I don't want you to just create these levels just because, right? You have to, some companies don't need lower management. Sometimes you have middle management. So figuring out what's best for your company at this time and don't just train your people, but also help your management increase in skills and help them train other people. So you're constantly building up leaders. I believe there's a quote by John Maxwell: leadership caps a company's potential, right? So if you have low leadership, you're going to have low potential in your company. If you have high leadership, you're going to have high potential in your company. So do this, invest in leaderships and train your people to train leaders as well. Don't be the only person who can build leaders. You want to train other people to train leaders, and that's how you really scale up. That's how you get explosive growth, which leads into create a leadership team. Think about promote from within, hire from outside. It's a skill set in terms of hiring leaders is different than hiring frontline workers. What type of personality do they need? What type of commitment do they need? Leaders, you typically have to work longer. You're not working in a 40-hour week. If everybody else working in a 40-hour week and you're leader, that means you may have to work 50, 60, 70. Are you getting people who are comfortable doing this? Or do people just want title? You want to make sure you hire the right person in leadership. Do they have a service type attitude, right? You want people who going to come in, they're going to know their role and be able to say, hey, this is for you to do, this is for me to do, or willing to help out, right? Hey, I'm willing to switch sweep the floors if that's necessary. If I'm the best person to sweep the floor because everybody's running and I'm the one with bandwidth, I'm going to do that. You don't necessarily want somebody who's going to say, no, I can't do this. However, you don't want somebody who's burning time and money by sweeping the floors when they should be doing something that adds way more value that only they can do in your company. So it's a balance, right? But being able to develop the skill set to find, hire, and train those types of leaders, right? Culture. As it expands, you really have to make sure your culture is tight or things will just start. People just start getting high on their horse. Like, oh, I'm doing very successful. We're fine. We're going to coast. We're doing excellent. We're going to do excellent next year. You have to have a culture where people want to fix, build, and strengthen things, right? So even as it's going well, like, how can I make it better, right? What can I do to improve? And culture, it varies per company, but you want to maintain your core values. What got you here, right? Maintain the core values. As you scale, the culture can get diluted because you're not the one hiring anymore. Maybe you're not able to expand you're not able to tell people over and over your vision. You're not able to tell people over and over what you want them to do, right? What are the core values? So you have to make sure that message is getting across and seeping through the whole company. That's internal communication. Being on top of that, as it gets bigger, it gets harder to communicate because now it's more people and they're separate. They're not as together. So can you connect internal communication to make sure the correct departments are talking to each other and they're not barriers of information, which is going to lead in balls being dropped or clients not being serviced correctly. Well, thank you for watching. That's all for today. My name is Achimbo Atande. This is Business and Life Advice with Atande Advisors. What was your favorite tip here? What are you going to utilize for your own business? Don't forget to like, share, and comment. God bless. I hope you enjoyed it.